I'll welcome Christina. And Christina, I'll let you take it away to get into more of the details.
Thanks, Ryan. So we've seen some really great early questions come in from investors. So I wanted to center this product walkthrough around some of them, and then we'll follow this section with live Q&A. So feel free to continue dropping questions in the chat if you have something that you would like answered live. To get us started, I want to talk about three terms maybe you've heard on other platforms used in regards to trading, but they're new to Arrived with the introduction of the secondary market. So I wanted to touch on them before I start using them. The trading window, which you just heard from Ryan, is the 1 week period that the secondary market is open every quarter. All secondary market activity takes place during the trading window. And then building on that, market hours are probably a familiar term from stock market trading. On the Arrived secondary market, they are weekdays from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern during the trading window. And then lastly, you're going to hear me talk a lot about looking for a match and finding a match. This is simply when shares in a buy and sell order meet or match at the same price and a trade occurs. This can happen for all of the shares in your order at once, or you can have a partial match where some but not all shares execute at the same time. So first question you might be wondering, what's the best way to find properties to buy on the secondary market? I'm going to talk about two approaches here, and I'm sure as you all start using it, you're going to find even more, and we can't wait to hear about them. So first, using filters can be a great way to discover properties when you have sort of some idea of what you're looking for and want to narrow down on your options. A lot of the filters available on the secondary market should look familiar from our new property and fund filters. And then we have two new additions to specifically make secondary market browsing easier, and I'm really excited about these. First is the minimum number of shares listed filter. So this will help you find properties if you maybe have a minimum investment in mind. So if you think that all of our new properties are offered at $10 per share, and you know you want to invest at least $1,000 in each property, you could use this filter to show only properties with at least 100 shares listed for sale. And then my favorite filter here is markets in your portfolio. This is a really great one if you're looking to diversify into new markets, especially ones that maybe we haven't offered in a while. So selecting not owned here will show you all the properties on the secondary market in markets that you don't have in your portfolio yet. And then the last two columns in the secondary market table are useful on their own as well as in conjunction with the filters I just showed. So sorting by the shares listed column will help you see properties at the top of the list with the most shares available. You can kind of use this in the same way that you'd use that minimum shares listed filter to find only properties that fit your desired minimum investment. And then sorting by the best available price column helps you bring the best deals to the top of the list as a buyer. This shows you the best price in the order book in relation to the property's Arrived valuation and how far above or below it might be. Realistically, I think you'll probably end up using a mixture of both methods to find the right properties to invest in on the secondary market. So then once you have a good list ready to go using filters and sorting, you'll probably need to do a little bit of manual understanding of like the general story of each property. The best place for you to do this is in the property history section, where you can find information on historical dividends, rental statuses, and performance for the entire life of a property thus far. Only you can decide ultimately what you're looking for, but this is a really great place to start. So then on the flip side, how might you determine which properties to sell on the secondary market? First, I just want to say that while the secondary market can offer an optional path to liquidity, all properties are still managed with a long-term strategy in mind. So Arrived continues to hold and sell properties according to their planned timelines based on market conditions. So if selling on the secondary market isn't something you're interested in doing, totally fine. This is really a decision that only you can make. With that said, though, if you're looking to strategically sell properties based on performance, we'd recommend starting in your portfolio. So from here, you can click into single family or vacation rentals and then review individual property performance. Click on a property's name and place an order to either buy more shares or sell shares directly from there. You've maybe already seen there's also a handy shortcut to sell shares from the main secondary market page, but you'll have a little bit less ability to analyze properties' performance when you take that route, so just keep that in mind. Next up then, why are all orders limit orders? The first thing I want to say here is that secondary market trading does not affect a property's Arrived valuation, which reflects the value of the property and underlying LLC. This is really important because it differs a little bit from the stock market. Secondary market trading does not affect a property's Arrived valuation. So with that said, we use limit orders so that investors have more control over the prices that their shares are trading at, rather than simply executing at the best available price, which could be far from the actual share value. And so we just don't want that to happen, considering that the actual share value is not affected by secondary market trading. So you can think that every time you place a limit order, you're essentially stating the highest price you're willing to buy shares for or the lowest price you're willing to sell shares for. So you might wonder then, can you change your order after it's been placed? And the answer is yes, until it's been matched. So when you submit your order, we will check the order book for matching shares either immediately or when market hours resume. If your shares don't match right away, you might want to adjust your order using market data, which you can do in the manage orders area. And again, this is totally up to you. Just remember that your order price is the highest you're willing to pay for shares or the lowest you're willing to sell shares for. So only adjust your prices to thresholds that you're comfortable with, because once a match occurs, the trade is final. So how do you go about setting a price for your order? And again, only you can decide here. So take arrived valuation, market data, trade history, and property history into consideration. All of those data points are conveniently available for you when you click on any property in the secondary market. And for full details, you can always open up a property's original offering page. There's a handy link right at the top of this screenshot you're seeing here. But just keep in mind that the data on that page is frozen in time from the initial launch. So, take it with a grain of salt. So then when you go to review your order, you'll see that we're only giving an estimate of what might be due or paid at match. Why is that? So in the case that a seller is willing to sell for a lower price than you've said you're willing to buy, or vice versa, your order might match at a better price than you submitted. Kind of the rule of thumb here is that everyone gets what they want or better. Since we don't know your final price or how many shares out of your order have matched until the match occurs, the source of truth for your final order total will be in your activity table transaction history. Until then, you will see us refer to subtotals as estimated. And now that we're talking about that activity table, let's go over trade statuses and money movement. When will you see newly purchased or sold shares reflected in your portfolio? So as soon as an order matches, it is final and will populate in your activity table with the status processing. Shares from buy orders will immediately be shown in your portfolio, and shares from sell orders will not move until you're into your closed positions until the trade has settled. That's usually going to happen 7 to 10 business days after the secondary market trading window closes, and you will see a green check mark as the status to denote that the trade has successfully settled. This is very similar to what happens when you buy one of our new properties or funds. And if you've sold any shares, the trade settling is also the moment when you see that money in your arrived cash balance. All right, one last easy question. Where can you find all of this info and more once you leave the webinar, aside from rewatching the replay that we'll send out? We have helpful guides to getting started in-app when you click on Learn How to Get Started on the main secondary market page, as well as a ton of FAQs at help.arrive.com, which is also linked in that in-app Getting Started guide. And with that, that's a perfect segue to transition back over to live Q&A. So I'll go back to you, Corinne.